Hey friends, Alvin here. We are continuing on with our series, our interviews with various youth leaders across CPOQ. And today I am glad to welcome Jim Alford, who is the youth pastor at Whitby Baptist Church. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, hello. Hi, everybody.
And so as we've been doing these interviews, trying to better understand what are some of the things that people are learning in the midst of the pandemic. I guess the first question I would have for you, and I've been asking a lot of people, is right now, given that this is happening since March, in your students and your youth, what kinds of changes have you noticed in them so far?
That's a really good question because right now we have a couple of students who are looking forward to. We had someone who are in grade 8 who are going to be going into high school,
Mm.
and they were looking forward to their proms. And one girl had already talked about the dress she planned on buying and all that. And then we have, of course, we have two students from high school who are graduating out of high school, and they had such hopes for what was going to be happening next. They
Mm.
had such excitement about what was going to happen. They were one of the high school students had already received 2 acceptances to universities that she was excited about. So it's just like, and all of a sudden that comes crashing down because things are not how they expected them to go to the end. They expected different things at the end. So it's been hard to for them, I guess, to just be able to understand, okay, what do I expect next? What's going to happen next? So it's trying to come alongside them and figure out, okay, well, how can we be there for them during this time when we can't actually just go out and have a coffee and sit down and talk face to face? And that's the difficult thing about it. So yeah, that's what I find has been the difference in our young people at this point. Mm.
So I'm curious, like with some of these rites of passages, how have you found, either on the youth ministry side or maybe as a church or maybe even as a community, what have you been, what are ways that you're helping to address some of those rites of passage?
Mhm. Well, so far we really haven't done a lot. We've been trying to find out online, been seeing a lot of things other people have been doing. And we
Mm.
just found out, I just saw one this morning, actually my wife just showed me this morning, where somebody went out and they actually made a lawn sign and dropped it put on their lawn the 2020 graduate lives here, that kind of thing, which I think is kind of nice. So people in the community can support them as well. So I might steal that idea and go around to a couple of houses and put a sign up. We have been finding ways to communicate with the youth groups and keep them. The hard part is trying to keep them all connected. It's one thing for us to be able to email students one-on-one or send them a note or even call them, but it's another thing for us all to be together on it. Platforms are all different. Some people don't have access to a laptop. Some people do. Some people don't have aren't on Facebook. Some are. So it's hard to find a consistent thing where we can all be together. I like Zoom for that, but we haven't at this point haven't had a chance to put a Zoom call together where we can all be together and meet in one room. So we've been doing little things, but one-on-one things like email updates and devotionals online, and I send crazy videos. Again, the fact that we're part of a network, and Curtis put out some videos of playing games by himself. So I did the same thing. I went into my gym and tried to play a game of dodgeball by myself. So just as a way for the kids to get a little bit of a laugh, the students all to get a laugh and say, okay, yeah, we do miss that. So hopefully in the next little while, we'll be able to work out some kind of a Zoom room where we can all see each other at least have a chance to meet virtually, if not in person. So it's difficult times, difficult times.
It would be interesting, as you say that, I'm curious what a virtual dodgeball game would look like, right?
Well, I have seen some celebrities did this. I don't know, uh, they did this boxing tournament or this fight tournament. So one person would put a punch and then would change the screen to the next person falling over. And so I'm thinking maybe we can have some kind of we'll put an order. Okay, so
Mm.
student A is going to hit student B and student B is going to hit student C, and we can form a video and I can try to edit it all together.
Yeah,
But my editing skills aren't that good, so I need to find somebody in our group who is a good video editor to do
yeah,
something like that. But it'll be kind of a neat idea, kind of fun idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
so
just,
right
I just
now,
for my video, I just stood there in the gym, threw the ball, and then looked around, and there was nobody there, and said, "Okay, I can't play by myself. Miss you guys." So it was very simple, but at least it was some way of just
yeah,
having fun with some of the things that we normally would do
yeah.
if we were together. Yeah.
And so, I mean, over the last few weeks, how have you found your role change, either in terms of the kinds of things you're focusing on, maybe even the time that you're spending on different elements versus others?
Well, I guess that's the thing. Like time-wise, I'm probably spending just as much time in youth programming, but not as much time in youth programming. You know what I mean? It's not the 2 hours where we're meeting with the students, but it's the hours in trying to find, okay, what can I find that I can actually put onto the web, put onto our website, put onto our Facebook page, put on email and text. And I have to have all of those things. So I'm taking something and putting it into 4 formats, because all students have a different way of receiving things. So I'm spending more time learning tech than I actually being there. I'm also doing more resourcing of, because some things just don't work over. Like a lot of the material that we've had in the past, and youth material we've done, is it's a video with a discussion questions back and forth. So how do you make that work in a text? How do you make that work in an email? So it's been a learning curve for me, and how to best get information, or how to best continue some of the things we were doing, but in a new format. And so I've been spending, I think, more time learning how to be able to do that sort of thing. Not always successful. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And it's been interesting to see what is out there. And there's a lot of good material out there, a lot of good resources and tutorials that are coming out online, which I'm just so thankful for. Things like group ministries for doing that kind of thing, Alpha for doing that kind of thing. There's just so many of them that are trying to help us out to see how we can transition the things that we would the normal way we would do things to the new way of having to do things. So there's been a lot of them. There's also a couple of Download Youth Ministries has also had a lot of opportunities that way too. So there's a couple of good sites that have been helping me with that. So, yeah.
And so you were mentioning a minute ago how you're almost having to find specific ways of connecting with different pockets of students. Walk that through a bit, because I'm guessing there are probably few people who are watching this, who have to go through something similar. So walk through that process of how do you navigate that? How do you try to discover that? What kind of how frequently are you connecting with these pockets?
Well, from the very beginning, even before this happened, I found that students would keep changing phone numbers. I can't believe how often phone numbers change. So it's keeping track of all of that stuff. So there's that one student that I have no new information from. So I've been trying to contact them, and I know the mom through it's a community connection. It's not somebody from our church. So I've been trying to, through other connections, try to find, okay, how do I get this student's name and number corrected? So I've learned one thing: on a regular weekly basis, have a list of, this is the contact information we have for you. Does it still apply? So I've learned that I'm going to be doing that going forward for sure, just to make sure. I would like to encourage students, again, going forward, we are going to use this format to communicate with one another throughout the year. So if you want to just sign up for this or whatever it's going to be, because some work really well with text, but some don't even text. Some, especially if you're doing with both junior and senior high, some of the junior hires don't have that technology yet. They may have a laptop or an iPad for school, but they're not allowed on it for other stuff. So depending on the parent situation. So it's keeping on top of all of that. I would really like to come up with one format that we say, okay, this is what we're going to use. Please just check it at least once a week or whatever. So throughout this, we've been trying, I've used multiple. We have a Facebook page. It's a group page. So if we do put pictures or do put something on it, it's a closed group. So only the members can see it. So that's good that way. We have things on I use a text format, and I also use email. So we have people doing that as well, to do both of those. So that's been working. I try to contact them. We try to do 2 a week. One is a funny thing. One is just a way to say, hi, how's everybody doing? And then we send another one in the middle of the other one in the week is one on it's a devotional of some kind of a question. It's a Bible study. It might be a quick video to look at and just think about this one question, and then let them sit on it, think it through. And sometimes they respond and sometimes they don't. And I guess that's the thing, is just to make sure that I can't get, okay, they didn't respond. How come did they not like it? That's not the point. It's the point is that we're still communicating. And if they do respond, awesome. And sometimes they do, and you go, yes. And sometimes they don't, and you go, well, at least they've heard from us and they know that they're cared about. And my wife, who also helps me with the ministry, she's been really, 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 really good. She does handwriting. Snail mail still works. And she's been sending letters to them, because they all have a house. They all have an address. and that doesn't change very often. So that's the easiest way to make sure they're getting some kind of a notification that yes, someone's still caring about them and somebody wonders how you're doing and that kind of thing. So we find you send out a card like that, when they get it, you'll always get a text back or an email back or something back. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing great or whatever. You always get a response from those, I find, more
Yeah.
than so. As much as this new technology has been great to help us embrace, sometimes the oldest technology in the world is the best for communicating. That's which is takes me back to when I first started in youth ministry, and we didn't have this. There was no such thing as a laptop. That's how old I am. We didn't have laptops, and I still have file folders full of clip art and flyers that we sent, and we sent in the mail. I remember sending a sock to everybody via snail mail. We're doing some. I have no idea what the devotion was about now, but I just remember a sock. The guy at the post office used to laugh at me. Okay, what are you sending today? And they had this whole stack of socks I'm sending out, or balloons, or all kinds of things. So it's making me rethink some of those things that work when we didn't have this technology, and
Mm.
to say, can I use some of that old stuff that we didn't think we would ever use again, and make that work? So we'll see. We'll see how it
Yeah,
goes over and how much longer it goes. So
definitely. No, that's it's always neat how there are definitely other methods that
hmm
maybe we thought were too old school, and yet there's just as
yeah,
viable now, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
No, that's great. And so, there's a couple of things that you shared there in terms of what's worked well. I mean, can you give me a specific example of of one of those moments where it all kind of clicked together, it all worked together?
Hmm. Well, I was going through a student devotional book, and I guess we found a way that it was so easily tailored. It was really well. The questions were something that you could answer in short bursts, because you don't students aren't going to answer something, give you they're in school enough. They're not going to give you a paragraph or 6 paragraphs or something. So you want
Hmm.
something that they can think through, and just a one line response that really gets at the heart of it. And this is one devotional guide I found that worked really well for that. So I was able to take some of those, rather than use it as a whole night that we would study, where we have a game that would tie in with the thing, with the theme and all that. It's just a one-off. Here's a passage of scripture, one quick question, and I think that worked really, really well. It was easier with the way that we have to do it. I think those kinds of things have worked well, have worked better than trying to come up with even the video clips. If we send out a video clip, it's just a one. Okay, what's the one thought that you want to have them think about? What's the one part of that video you want them to think on?
Mm.
And so we've done some of that.
So yeah, so keeping it concise, keeping it
Yeah.
very, very direct. No, that's great.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
by the way, later on, if you can send me the link to that, I'll actually, I might even just post the link, or even the book cover on top. So
Okay. Sure.
and I'll just splice that part of that conversation
Okay.
in. So on the flip side, then, what have you found that have been maybe obstacles or struggles in the midst of all this?
Well, the biggest struggle for me is that I'm a hands-on person. I need to talk to you face to face. I need to see your reaction, because sometimes that tells more than what you're actually saying.
Mm.
And I really miss that. I miss that live face to face contact. Um, so that's been a struggle. And like I said before, having not a consistent platform where everybody is on, so that we can be in it seem more feel more united together in all this. um, I have 3 or 4 who are on who use text, 2 or 3 who are using Facebook, 2 or 3 who are using. So I'm getting these things coming in pieces rather than in one whole. So it's trying to find a way. So then I've decided, okay, is there enough information that was shared on that I should send it out to everybody via all the other techniques? So it's just that's the struggle. I really wish there was one platform. As I jokingly said, I think I was at the anniversaries, the 20th anniversary thing. Maybe CBOQ needs to come up with their own platform, the CBOQ youth platform or something like that, where we can all at least buy into that. If I'm going to spend money on a Zoom call, on a Zoom platform or something that's high tech, I'll give it to CBOQ if they can coordinate it. So it's all youth oriented. But it's one of those things that would make it a lot easier if we had something like that. But right now, It's just trying to figure out how to make it work, even though I don't have something like that. So that's been a struggle. So
Okay.
that's about
Well, good to know that you're thinking of fundraising ideas for us. So,
it. Yeah.
as we're about to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, what's a word of encouragement or a word of wisdom that you would want to pass on to those who are watching or listening to this?
Mm. I guess the biggest encouragement is that I think students are going to come out of this wanting conversation, wanting more uh, face-to-face conversation. There's an article, I think it was put on the CBOQ site, about students, and they're ditching their technology now. They realize now that the technology is not relationship. And I'm hoping that that's true. And I'm hoping that that's really true. And I got a sense that after all this is done, you'll have less people, less students when you're trying to do a devotional sitting there with their phones going like this. There'll be more listening and intent because they've had enough of this and they want more of this one-on-one. So that's my encouragement, is just be prepared for that, look forward to that, and embrace that. The connections, I've always said from the very beginning, my youth ministry is not what happens on youth ministry night, whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday night. It's what happens outside. When you go to the football game, when you go to the concert, when you go to the school and just take somebody out for a coffee or something afterwards, or McDonald's, whatever afterwards. That's what makes the youth ministry. I think we're going to have more opportunities to do that after all this is over. So that's my encouragement to everybody. Just patience and wait for that day where you might be able to really do the youth ministry, the relationship building. I think is so important in youth ministry and the mentoring that comes from that.
No, that's a great reminder for us.
Mhm.
Well, Jim, thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing some insights and also even just some tips on what people might actually be able to experiment with and try out in their own context as well. So thanks for your time.
Oh, you're quite welcome. My pleasure.